welcome back. And if you saw the previous video in the greenhouse, then today we've built raised beds for what we're currently potting up, lettuce and everything else at the moment. The main thing to building a raised bed like this, rather than just buying the solid troughs that you can get at Home Depot and Tractor Supply, it's going to come down to the price versus the size. I mean, what you have here, you have 10-foot long beds that are 5 foot wide, and each one of these beds, each one of them, materials and all, came to $115.42. Now, as you saw in the other little clip just a second ago, the little metal raised beds or water troughs that you can buy, a lot of people use, you just have to drill holes in them and get some drainage. Each one of those is going to cost $105 before tax, and they're only 2 foot wide by 4 foot long. So for $10 more, you're getting a whole lot more square footage that you can plan in. And if you're willing to put in the work, I mean, you can really save a lot of money in the long run. So we'll take you back just a half hour ago to when this was just a mess and give you a good idea as to how we knock these things out. Alright, so all you're going to need to build these raised beds are pressure treated 2x6s, these cornerstones, and rebar. So basically, these beds are going to be 10 foot long by 5 foot wide. It's easy just to take a 10-foot 2x6, cut it in half, there's your width. And if you want to go up a level, which we're going to go up, these are going to be 2 levels high, you just double whatever you buy. So instead of having one 2x6, you're going to have 2. And same thing on the width, etc. So it really, the math isn't very complicated. You can do them, you can get an 8-foot 2x6, cut it in half, there's a 4 foot wide bed, whatever really fits to your space. So we'll go ahead and get started. I've already gone ahead and leveled out and trenched where everything's going to go. And I dug a trench rather than putting them flat on top of the ground because I want the trench to kind of secure the bottom 2x6. Make sure it doesn't bow out, wiggle, that kind of thing. But we'll go ahead and get started and kind of just run down the easiest way to put in raised beds. Alright, so just a quick little run through real quick. All you have to do is obviously cut your width to size, run your length because you're not cutting it. The only thing you have to do is slide them down into these little grooves. It's what these are made for. It's perfect. And then once you've got them complete, you got a little hole right here, right down the center of the block, and that's where you put your run of rebar. Keeps them from moving, keeps them from shifting, just keeps everything in place. We're also going to be running rebar on the outside of our 10-foot sections. That way there's no way that once you get all of the soil and everything on the inside of the bed that it has a chance to bow out and over time. So now that we got that out of the way, we'll just go ahead and speed this up, put these together real quick. Alright, one thing, didn't think to mention until now, be good to know. When you get your rebar to this point right here, so there's a little stub sticking up, if you're like me, and you like to hammer, and aiming's not exactly what you put all your skill points into, it's better if you take just a scrap piece, a 2x4, put it over the top of your rebar and hammer away. Because if you hit one of these blocks, you run the risk of cracking it, knocking off part of it. split in half completely, and then it's back to Home Depot for another one. So just to save yourself the hassle, all you gotta do is put it doesn't have to be a 2x4, 2x4, 1x4, whatever, just something over the top of that rebar. That way your hammer has no chance popping this block. There you go. And the reason you hammer it down flush is just on the off chance you want, you can take another 2x6 and put it flat on top of this and run it around the edge of the entire bed. Kind of gives you a place to sit, put tools, whatever you want, and it gets it a complete look. Covers up the, I shouldn't do that, covers up the concrete and just gives it a more refined look to the bed. So we'll go ahead and do that to the rest of the corners, and by then we'll be ready to start the second bed. So that's essentially it. Got bed 1, bed 2. Now, obviously, we're gonna have to break up the red clay that's beneath them, put in some additives, and we're gonna have to bring in some soil, because filling these isn't a matter of just going to Home Depot, grabbing some bags of dirt, and calling it a day. It's gonna take a little bit, but we'll do that here in a little while.